Hey everybody, I'm Andy Ostroy. Welcome into the back room.
He's an enemy of the state. You want to know the truth? The enemy of the state is him and the group that control him, which is circling around him. Do this, do that, Joe. You're going to do this, Joe, right?
He's talking about President Joe Biden. Here's another clip.
Last week, he's a weirdo, Mark Zuckerberg came to the White House, kissed my ass. Kissed my ass. Sir, I'd love to have dinner. Sir, I'd love to have dinner. I'd love to bring my lovely wife. All right, Mark, come on in. Sir, you're number one on Facebook. I'd like to congratulate you. Oh, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it.
That was Trump at a rally last week. First of all, Joe Biden is not the enemy of the state. That's you, buddy. Okay, but the more interesting clip was the one about Zuckerberg. You know, the MAGAs. You know, they called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe, Old Joe, Senile Joe. He's lost his mental faculties. He shouldn't be president. There's something wrong with him. Donald Trump still thinks he's in the fucking White House. I mean, he thinks he was there last week, and Mark Zuckerberg came over and kissed his ass. Like, dude, you have not been in the White House since January of 2021, and you need to have that shit checked out, whatever that is that causes you to think you were there last week. I mean, this guy is the delusion. But where's the outrage, the outcry, the concern? Oh, my God, Donald Trump. No, Trump 24. Trump 24. Anyway. Been kind of a crazy week, huh, guys? I'm sitting here with the inimitable and irreplaceable Maddie Rosenberg and Jen Hammoud. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Nutty week.
It was a lot of news. A lot of news.
A lot of Queen news. I mean, I'm overdosing on cable Queen coverage, if I may say that. Is that okay to say?
Yeah, I mean, that was a big story. That kind of squashed almost every other story yesterday.
Yeah. White privilege. White privilege tends to do that.
It's true. I mean, she really did see the demise of the British Empire. I mean, she came in and Winston Churchill was the prime minister, and she left with Liz Doofus as prime minister.
You know, look, I love a good old grandma as much as anybody. You know, she seemed like a sweet lady. She was very well liked, and it's very sad that she died. Although she lived a very long and fulfilling, full life. But there was a guy, I can't remember his name. He was on Rick somebody. He was on one of the cable networks yesterday. Yeah, she does have a kind of an interesting past, you know. And if you go back to the days of the formation of apartheid and South Africa, and just, you know, I think Americans kind of need to remember that, you know, that kind of monarchistic rule is what we escaped from and fought against to create America. So, you know, I'm all for throwing the Queen her props, but, you know, I think we need to keep the other stuff in perspective too. And the fact that, you know, the monarchy, as we've seen in the last couple of years, can be a little, you know, bigoted, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think it needs to, perspective is important. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say on the Queen. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add on that?
No. Charles is in place now.
The King.
King.
You know, that Donald Trump was the first thing that went through that maniac's mind yesterday when he heard that the Queen died was like, fuck, Charles gets to be king.
He put out a tweet pretending to be best friends with the Queen as well. Or not tweet, a truth, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, well, him and Melania put out a statement, which, I don't care who you are, you can't look at that tweet, that statement, and think that either of them wrote any of that. But I just was surprised, not surprised, I was just thinking like, man, he must be going, God damn it, I want to be king. I want to be king.
I was impressed, actually. I always skim through ABC Evening News because it's the most watched evening news, and I feel like most people who watch TV news get their news from that, the largest viewership. And they managed to do the Queen's story and cover all the different presidents that met with her and did not mention Trump or show an image of Trump with the Queen on the entire newscast.
Well, do you remember that clip of him walking with the Queen? And he kept walking in
front of her.
And then, like, he stopped, and she'd go behind him to the left, and he'd go to the left. I mean, it was the most awkward thing I have ever seen in my life. And I tweeted that yesterday because it was worth bringing back.
He had such respect for her.
As he does everyone. So the big issue I want to talk about before we get to our guest today, who is Stephanie Grisham. Very excited to talk with Stephanie about her days on the Trump crazy train. This whole special master situation, I'm going to try to just very, very, very briefly summarize what's going on. Donald Trump basically said, hey, a lot of those documents are mine. And everything's got to stop until somebody special comes in, more special than the Department of Justice and the FBI, to look at these documents because I think they're mine. And every legal analyst that I heard on television for a week or two was like, there's no way the judge is going to grant a special master. It's inappropriate. It's out of her jurisdiction. There's just no reason for it. Special masters are only assigned in cases of attorney-client privilege, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what happened? Judge Aileen Cannon down in Florida, a Trump appointee, she granted the special master, which in effect stops the investigation into Donald Trump. Just stops it, just shuts it cold. And so for about a week or so, everybody was wondering, is the Department of Justice going to appeal? And lo and behold, yesterday they filed not one but two motions to appeal, of the appeal. I'm sorry, one motion to appeal, but another very shrewd motion to Judge Cannon herself, basically saying, you done fucked up, unfuck it up. And you got a week, or we're going to appeal to the 11th Circuit Court. And the reason she screwed up, without getting very technical here as a non-lawyer, but the reason she screwed up is that she lumped everything together, classified documents, non-classified documents. And what the Department of Justice is trying to do is to get her to separate out the classified part. And why are they asking her to do that? Because no classified documents ever are supposed to leave the White House, number one. And number two, they don't belong to anyone but the American people, the United States government. So to have somebody come in to look at classified documents to determine which ones belong to Trump is ridiculous. It's an error. It's an egregious mistake and misuse of the law. So it was a terribly bad decision. And so by separating them out, the investigation can continue. So there's no way that classified documents should be part of this. And also, classified documents will never be part of executive privilege. They'll never be part of attorney-client privilege. And so, very shrewdly, the Department of Justice has put her on the spot. Now, judges hate to admit they're wrong, right? And so it's not certain what she's going to do. But she does know that if she does not carve out the classified part, that the Department of Justice will file an appeal, which they've written the brief already, to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And again, every legal expert says there's no way that her ruling will hold up. They could be wrong again. But if it goes to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, it's not going to a judge who I think is like 37 years old, has no experience, literally was appointed at the last minute by Trump to a lifetime appointment. She is not just unqualified, but she might even be biased. So there is a really, really strong, I think 99% chance this thing would be overturned.
That's a general belief, although with the caveat that of the 11 judges on the circuit, 6 of them were Trump appointed on the appellate.
Right, but but at that point there's a conversation amongst people, and I haven't looked at the qualifications of those people, but I'm certain they have way more qualifications than this single judge, who apparently Trump went fishing for this particular judge.
That's what appears to be the case.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, it fits into Trump's strategy of always looking to stall and delay, and that's been his tactic, his MO for decades. And he just seems to get people somehow to support that and enable that.
Yes, and I think one other important point of their response was to point out that she is hindering national security investigation, because she tried to separate national security from criminal investigation, and the only agency that can do that is the FBI. There is no other agency tasked with doing both criminal and national security. So by hindering the FBI, she's basically put a stop to any investigation into where we might be compromised. And that's one of their big points that I think she's going to have to expedite.
That's a great point, Maddie. And so that's another reason why there's a strong likelihood that this will be overturned. So hopefully she's going to bow to the pressure, realize that her inexperience, I don't think she would say this publicly, but it's really her inexperience that made her make this mistake.
Yeah, it seems clear that people in the Federalist Society who become judges want to be appointed to the next level, and the district court is the lowest level of federal court, and then she would go to the appellate division. And by kowtowing to Trump, that assures you, should he ever be in power again, that you're going to be on the appellate court. But it seems to me that she should have probably just punted this and said that she didn't have jurisdiction, and she would have sort of secured maybe not being destroyed in her reputation among the Federalist lunatics, but at the same time sort of let this go to somewhere else, because it really should be in a Washington court.
Yeah, well, she's no different than anybody else in his orbit who is drunk on greed and power. And, look, 2 minutes ago I said the name Eileen, I don't know, whatever it is, Cannon, right? A week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, nobody knew who the hell this woman was. Now she's like one of the most noted judges in America. So I think it's, look, we had the Mooch on last week, and he was very honest about, look, I'm a kid from Long Island, now I'm in the Oval Office, right? I think the proximity to power corrupts people in ways that you or I, even you, Jen,
that's impossible.
Can't fathom. If you have a core, if you have principles. If someone said to me, "Oh wait, the owner of this store just went to the bathroom and the cash register is open. Take the money. She'll know. She won't see." I won't do it because I have principles.
You're a mensch.
I am a mensch among mensches. Thank you for mentioning that. No, but you have to have some kind of core so that just when opportunity and power comes in front of you, you don't grab it at the expense of everything that you should believe in. And so I think, I hate to say it, but I think that's what happened with her. She's like paying him back because of what you just said, Maddie. Like, God, 2 years from now, I could be, 5-10 years from now, I could be sitting on the Supreme Court.
Thankfully, there have been multiple Trump judges that have ruled against him.
Yes.
So it isn't guaranteed, which is a good feeling. But
yeah, no, I don't worry about that. You look at Chris Wray at the FBI, he's a Trump appointee. Like, it's not automatic that, people in his orbit bow to the king. It's just if you look at it like, with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and like that level of people, it's usually the younger, completely unqualified people who they know when they walked into the room they don't belong there. So daddy's going to take care of them. So let's protect daddy.
Well, strangely, she isn't the least qualified judge that he appointed. She does have some semblance of qualifications academic-wise and otherwise.
Yeah, but she's never written anything. She's never introduced anything. She's never spoken anywhere. Like, she just has no public, public persona, public trail that most judges have, It's like being a doctor. After a certain number of years, you write medical reports, you write articles that are published in the New England Journal of Medicine, the yada, yada, yada. So something's going on there, but hopefully this is going to correct itself, because for the investigation to just be completely shut down is, it could take months and months and months and months and months to get back on track. And we don't have that kind of time. Anyway, let's get to our guest, Stephanie Grisham. She is a New York Times best-selling author of the book, I'll Take Your Questions Now, What I Saw in the Trump White House. She is most notable for serving in the Trump administration. She served as White House press secretary and director of communications for both the president, Donald Trump, and his first lady, Melania Trump. She's the only person in history who has held 3 senior roles at once, while representing both the East and West Wings. Stephanie, welcome into the back room.
Thank you for having me.
So, a couple of things before we really get into it. I want to establish why I wanted to interview you today. And that was because I personally do appreciate and respect people who are coming forward, whenever they come forward, to sort of join arms in combating Trump and Trumpism, which is a serious threat to this country. Doesn't necessarily mean I excuse what people have done in the past. Doesn't mean that it doesn't upset me what people have done or didn't do in the past. But I think the more productive approach for all of us is to lock arms when our national security and our democracy has been threatened like no time in our history. And so that's the only thing that matters. And sometimes I get, like, for example, Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, like, I'm very supportive of these guys. And I get people saying to me, like, yeah, but Liz Cheney is she's anti-abortion. I'm like, that's not important right now. Like, and I give the analogy, like, if your house is robbed, right, last week, but a week later, you're in a dark alley and 5 guys are beating the crap out of you, and the robber walks by and offers to help you, are you going to say, no, get away, you robbed my house last week? Like, in that moment, it's like whoever's going to stand up and defend you and what you believe in, that's what's important. And also, I think you and I talked a little bit offline a week or so ago about, the need to make sure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again. So I think it's important to not just talk about what we do moving forward, but to sort of peel away the onion a little bit to help understand how it happened the first time. So I do appreciate you coming on.
Agreed.
I think you're very brave in what you do, not just coming on with me, but all the media hits that you do, because there's a lot of people that were in your shoes who aren't doing that. I mean, there's a lot of people who they're not even answering subpoenas, let alone go on MSNBC. Yeah. So when people decide that it's time to flip, that's all that matters to me. So again, thank you for coming on. Appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing it. We're all in this particular fight together.
Thank you. And I've never been called a robber before, so I'm going to remember that. That was such a good
the analogy, it was almost worse. I mean, you use your imagination. I could have made it a lot worse, but
absolutely.
Before we get into the main conversations, we here in the back room like to start off with something really important, which is to understand whether someone is a cat or a dog person. So what are you?
Oh, dog.
Wow, I had you as cat. I would have put all my money on cat.
No, well, I did. It's funny. I just rescued a kitten, and she's around here somewhere, and I'm not a cat person at all. But this cat was not going to make it. Yeah, no, I've got 2 French. I'm nothing. I just grew up with no cats. I mean, I've kind of fallen in love with this little kitten.
So you have a kitten now?
But right now, I rescued her. Are
you fostering or are you keeping?
So she was I bet I end up keeping. It's going to be like a foster fail, because now I've grown attached to it. Wow,
that's great. And what?
But I've got 2 French bulldogs, and I've got an English bulldog who is
God, you're
paralyzed.
blazing through Europe.
He's got. Yeah. He's paralyzed, so he's a diapered dog, and he can't move his back legs at all. So
yeah, that's sad when they get sick and they get old, and that's the problem with dogs. I love dogs, but like they have such a short lifespan. You know, all things considered. Not to be Debbie Downer, but I have two dogs. Yes. One of whom is the greatest dog ever, and the other is not. My little dog, actually, I truly believe is a Trump supporter. He's MAGA all the way. I don't know if you remember that Saturday Night Live skit they did a few years ago where they put a cat, like a thing on a dog, and it read its brain, and the dog was a total Trumpster. Like, it's time to ban.
Oh no,
we gotta ban Muslims.
Like
that's my dog.
Oh my gosh! The whole time we were in the White House, I didn't watch SNL.
And then my older dog, my other dog, is just the most amazing dog, and now he's like 9, and I'm really starting to think, oh my God, he doesn't have a lot of time left, and it just makes me very sad. So, whatever. But
I get it.
But when he goes, there are people that, when your dog dies, it takes them years to like get over. Like, to me, when my dog dies, the next day I'm getting another dog.
What? Oh no, not me. And my 2 Frenchies are the same way. My one dog is the best dog ever, and my other one, my little girl, she's a mess. She's a mess. But no, I would never. I'll be that person who takes forever to get over it.
Okay, now I have to ask you, because I'm reading your shirt. Are you wearing something that says "I really don't care"?
No.
I'm kidding.
No.
I tease.
It's no. Okay. No.
That would have been
Though
funny.
I do have
actually,
a jacket like that. I have a jacket that says "All you need is love" on the back. It's a replica, but it says "All you need is love," and I wore it to a Justin Bieber concert.
Well, you should donate to your old pal Melania. Let her wear that.
Yeah, I don't think she'd take it.
So speaking of Melania, the first thing I want to ask you, I think is probably going to be something no one else has asked you. Okay. And it's been something I have been waiting 5 years to find out and ask you. Okay, I've had a lot of highs and lows in my life. Anybody who wants to Google me can see why. But one of the highs of my life was going viral 5 years ago with a tweet. It was so much fun. It went everywhere. It was Jimmy Fallon's opening monologue bit. It was on Daily Show, every news organization. And what it was, on May 2nd, 2017, I was sitting on my couch one night, and I decided to take that famous video where Melania is standing behind Donald at, I think, the inauguration maybe, and he turns around and looks at her, and she's like smiling, and then when he turns back, she scowls like she hates him. I took that video and I said, it looks like the only wall Donald Trump has built is the one between him and Melania. My phone blew up because a minute later, Melania herself liked my tweet. It was only the second tweet she ever made. The first one was when she joined Twitter and said, "Hey, everybody, I'm on Twitter." And she liked her own tweet. This was the second tweet. I looked at my phone. I could not believe it. It went nuts. 45 minutes later, her like came down. You were her communications director at the time. You have to have been involved in that. Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Did she like that tweet? Did you like that tweet? Who liked that tweet? End it now. Tell the world.
I didn't like that tweet. She actually she did a lot of her own Twitter. Like, she scrolls through Twitter a lot. She had it on her phone, obviously. And she did it another time. I forget why, but sometimes when she would be scrolling, she'd like something. And Melania Trump, which I've said this a million times, she keeps track of everything that is said about her. There would be times she would tell me things were happening, and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And I'd have to dig really deep to find it. So she liked it by accident, and I don't think she realized she liked it. And then I called and said, "Hey, you liked this tweet," and she unliked it.
It's mind-boggling to me that happened, because my first thought was, and I think a lot of people could understand this just seeing the dynamic of their relationship, or at least the public dynamic of their relationship. My first thought was, they just had a big fight and she's fucking pissed and she's going to show him. Because there's no other explanation. There's no other explanation.
No,
either that she's dumb. Is she dumb? Like, how does she read that and go, I like that?
No, she didn't like, but she scrolls with her finger and she would hit things sometimes.
Yeah, we all scroll through our fingers. But like, I mean, the First Lady of the United States sees a tweet that says her and her husband are fighting and she likes it. I don't know.
I mean, I wish I could say it was because she has this great sense of humor. But that's truly what it was. I have no reason to defend her now. I know it's not a very fun answer, but that's
I mean, I had my daughter who's now almost 19. I guess she was like 14 at the time. Because I couldn't believe, I actually had to check her, just make sure it was the right account, like something, it's got to be a hack or something. And my daughter looked at me, she goes, Dad, do you know what you just did? It was crazy. I mean, I have never seen a phone explode. I hear about it all the time. Like my phone blew up, the internet blew up. My phone was like, it was insane. And then what happened is, I'm sure you remember, over the next couple of days, it was everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I thank you for that. I thank Melania for that. Well, it's good to know that, people always say to me, like, you know what? Why do you tweet? No one gives a shit what you have to say. No one reads it. I was like, all right, first of all, the entire Trump family, Donald, Eric, Melania, Donald, Eric, Jr., and Ivanka. They all blocked me. Okay. So I was like, all right, somebody's listening, right? Actually, Michael Cohen was the first of the Trumpsters to block me, and he told all his followers to block this asshole. But then that thing with Melania happened. I was like, they're seeing it. It's Twitter to me is unbelievable. It is an unbelievable medium. For some people who know how to use it, it's great. Other people get in serious trouble doing it. But isn't it kind of crazy what Twitter does and how it brings people together in some ways, and it can separate people if you don't use it right. But what's your thought on Twitter? You're on Twitter a lot.
Yeah. If it's used properly, I think it's incredible. It's incredible because of the news that you can get, but also for me personally lately, I actually respond to, I don't know, more than half of the people who say fuck off to me all the time. So I try to actually respond and engage with people to say, fair enough, I get it, you hate me, but this is, and I kind of explain some things. And I've actually ended up turning some people and having really great conversations or hearing from them privately. So for me, that's the way I'm using it right now. So I think it can be used in incredible ways, but man, it's also such
it can be. I get a lot of hate stuff too. And I was telling Mooch a couple weeks ago that the stuff that's the most vile, I always go to the bio of the people who sent it, and usually the first thing they say is love Jesus, Christian.
Yeah. Or dad or mom. And it's like, what are you teaching your kids?
It's crazy.
What? Because same thing. I do the same thing. And if it's really vile, I'll take screenshots and I'll put it out there.
Well, I think it's interesting that people
try to shame
come around to you, because I think when people do have the ability to have a one-on-one, especially with someone who infamously or notably had been in the public eye for something that, now they say was a huge mistake. I think people do realize that we all make mistakes. And the more you can talk to somebody one-on-one and understand what they do or why they do it, the easier it is to get over that toxicity and that wall that exists. But so speaking of that, looking back at your career, around 2012, you worked for Mitt Romney. Then you actually did some freelance stuff for the Pope. Okay, the Pope. Yeah, and then you saw the Trump crazy train, the Trump trolley go by, and you decided you needed to be on that. Why?
Well, so I worked also after the Pope. I worked for the AG in Arizona, and then after that, I worked for the House of Representatives. And at the time, the leadership in the House of Representatives in Arizona was very conservative, and so I got into that mindset, and I actually was doing stuff for a few of the different candidates, who I can't even remember half their names now. But I had done something for a couple things for Scott Walker, for Ben Carson, and I was about to do something for Rubio. And a friend called me and just said, "Will you do the advance for Donald Trump? I know this is crazy, but will you just do it?" And I thought, oh, cool. My best friend and I love The Apprentice, so I was like, cool, I'll see Donald Trump. I mean, I truly did think it was kind of a joke, but a cool opportunity to see him. And we did the rally, and it was huge. I was blown away truly by how packed the place was. And he was so, likable, and he said things that, oh, here's that kitten. He said things that went against convention. Yeah. And he spoke so real, and the way the crowd reacted to him shocked me. I was shocked. And so at that time, and I met him backstage, and he was, charming and funny, and that was cool to me at the time, because this is still just Celebrity Apprentice.
Did he try
in
anything
my mind.
Trumpy on
He
you?
did not. He did not.
No.
He didn't say anything weird. That kind of stuff came much later. But his message resonated with me in terms of how he made everybody around him feel like he was just one of them, which was shocking, because here he is, this
Yeah, what is that message? Like, what I try, as someone on this side of the fence, to understand his appeal, and the only thing I ever come up with is he spewed racist shit, and that spoke to them. I can't get anywhere else.
So yeah, that's fair, but the message was more of, he was dropping curse words. He was talking about how, politicians are just such bullshit. He wants to run the country like a business.
Which is ironic, considering how many businesses he's bankrupted.
Yeah, very true. But he hadn't started with the drain the swamp and lock her up stuff.
How easily we forget all his greatest hits.
Yeah.
Drain the swamp.
But truly, so that, yeah, look at that. And so that was how he resonated with me at first. And so from then on, I started doing more events with him. That's how it started.
In your book, I'll take your questions now, what I saw at the Trump White House. There's a quote, "At the White House, Trump was the distant, erratic father we all wanted to please." I read that and I'm like, you guys all had daddy issues? Is that what it was all about? Like, this insanity that is now going on 7 years is because a bunch of people had some daddy issues? Is that it?
I did. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I did. I grew up with some abuse in my life. And for me, I've learned now that was, I mean, if he was mad, I personally, not everybody. I think everybody is going to have their own reasons. Some people were there for power. Everybody's going to have their own reasons. For me, when he was pissed off, looking back, I can't believe how scared I was of him. And I know that sounds stupid, but it's just
we all now know about his violent outbursts, and it's easily understandable. And just watching, do you remember when he would be in a room with his cabinet and it would be televised and everybody in the room had to go around kissing his ass? It was so apparent that it was a very abusive situation, that these people, even on the highest levels of government, were absolutely terrified of this guy. I get it.
Yeah, his anger was swift, and it could be cruel. And so for me, again, personally, if he got pissed, I would either disappear and not see him for a couple days if I could, or I would, do anything I could to put him in a good mood again, which basically means saying, your polling's great, everything's great, the news is great, and to get back in your good graces.
You've taken
and I cringe saying that now, by the way. I do.
You've taken a lot of heat over the years for not doing press conferences when you were press secretary. Press briefings. Actually, I think that was started by Sarah Sanders, your predecessor, towards the end of her tenure. You wrote in your book, quote, "I knew that sooner or later the president would want me to tell the public something that was not true, or that would make me sound like a lunatic." In January of 2019, Trump tweeted, "The reason Sarah Sanders does not go to the podium much anymore is that the press covers her so rudely and inaccurately, in particular certain members of the press. I told her not to bother. The word gets out anyway." So you sort of imply that like it was your decision. He's saying like he told Sarah Sanders not to do it. I think we all kind of know that like if you didn't do press briefings, it was probably because he told you not to do them, not because it was your decision.
Yeah, that was the agreement before I took the job. So when I took the job, the other thing people forget is I had 3 full-time jobs. So I filled 2 top communications jobs on the West Wing side, and I was still Mrs. Trump's press person on the East Wing side. And so the agreement was if I were going to have all those jobs, that the non-press briefings would continue. Because you're right, Sarah had stopped them 6 months before. Well, the president had stopped them 6 months before with Sarah. And that was our agreement. We agreed. And he felt that they were useless. He said to me, I'm out there talking to them, 4 or 5 times a day anyway, which I agreed. And that was the agreement.
What was the most categorically bizarre moments you experienced in the White House? First with Donald and then Melania. I mean, to me, I'm seeing bleach, but I'm going to ask you what was your craziest moments?
It's I first of all, I can't say, oh, this one. There were so many. And it's funny because as I talk more, certain things will come up. And, the other day, I don't even remember what it was about now, but the other day a reporter was like, whoa, how did that not make it in your book? And I'm like, there was so much.
Injecting bleach has to be in the top 2 or 3. No, like,
well,
you're watching the United States president live, looking and like, so if we put the bleach in and clean out I watched that and I thought he just jumped the shark. Like there's nothing he could do or say ever that will sound more fucking crazy than that. And Deborah Birx looked the same exact way.
I was in the East Wing at that. Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah, she did. I remember that once it made the rounds. But I was in the East Wing. I had gone back to the East Wing at that point. Of course, I heard about him saying it. But, I was so disconnected and disenchanted and disgusted at that point, being back in the East Wing, that I think I had kind of shut everything off and basically thought, fuck you, West Wing. And so for me, of course, when I heard about it, I was like, what in the hell? I
have to ask you, because this is something I always think every day, like, where would it ever end? Like, given what you said before, about your childhood and abuse and your fear of Trump and blah, 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 and everybody. If he had said to you, Stephanie, I want you to inject bleach, what would you have done?
No, I would not inject bleach.
I don't know. Body. I mean, I look at everything that goes on. I'm like, I wouldn't think anyone would have done any of this shit, but they do. Like, Jim Jones got everybody to drink cyanide. They did that, and they all died. Like, where does the cultism end? Like, when do people say no?
And it's, to answer that question really honestly, I think some people would be like, okay, yeah, I'll do that tonight. And
if you do it, I'll do it.
And it's a good point to bring up is he would ask people to do things all the time, not inject bleach necessarily, but anything. And we'd all be like, okay, yeah.
I think Stephen Miller, by the way, actually did inject bleach. That's my theory, but I have no proof, so I can't say that for sure.
And be careful because they've got some big, pot of money now. They're suing everything.
And I'm sure Steve Bannon has injected other stuff, which I have no proof with, but I
don't even want to know. Yeah.
So what about Melania? Besides liking some nobody libtard's tweet, what is the craziest thing you've witnessed her do?
Well, that's what was so interesting about Melania. She's almost robotic in how she doesn't do anything. She didn't do a whole lot as first lady, but nothing crazy. I mean, for me, I think the craziest thing, and I'm not sure, I write about this in my book. When the Stormy Daniels news hit, she and I went to Mar-a-Lago, just the 2 of us, and we were there for the weekend. And I reached out to her and asked her if she wanted to go like take a walk on the beach with me. Like just, I was saying it as a friend. I've been cheated on myself. So I was trying to just be like, hey, do you want to go sit in the sun and say, screw all men? And I remember she wrote back and was like, okay, will you have paparazzi there to get a picture? And I remember being like, wait, what? No, huh? So that was odd to me because it was a moment where I was trying to just be a human with her. And, it was all about the photo op, which I came to learn, the whole Trump family is like that, photo op. So I think that would be the craziest thing. She was very controlled, very private, even with as close as I thought we were. She didn't really do crazy things.
So at one point there was a whole free Melania. She's this poor woman. She blah blah blah. Clearly, you're not in the free Melania camp. I mean, I've always thought she's as complicit as. I mean, she's as bad as he is. They're two partners in crime, and literally. She's got a great life. You know what I mean? They live very separate lives. She, gets to spend all that money, and to live on all the different properties and take care of her son, which she is a good mom. I'll say that. And she gets to do what she wants. There's no free Melania. I was asked by a friend to ask you this. Her past. Was she an escort or a full-on prostitute, in your opinion?
Oh, I have no
Everybody
idea
wants
about
to know
any of
that.
that.
Everyone wants to know that. I mean,
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer.
We criticize Michelle Obama for wearing a sleeveless dress. I think we should know whether the former first lady was in the sex industry. But
we never ever talked about her past. We never did ever. Not even like the modeling pictures.
Yeah.
We never.
I don't care.
About
my
that.
friend was very interested.
Well, tell your friend I'm sorry that I don't have an answer.
Maybe we can dial up Melania. She seems to like what I have to say.
Yeah, me too. Me too lately.
So 3 weeks ago, I tweeted the following. I said, I'm still livid at all the people who worked in the Trump administration, aides, cabinet members, etc., and Republicans in Congress who could have stopped this monster, but wet their fucking pants in fear instead. They violated their oath as public servants and as men and women. Surprisingly, you retweeted that, and you said, I think this is a fair/valid statement by Andy Ostroy, but unless the cabinet invoked the 25th Amendment, nothing would have happened. The news cycle was such that a chief of staff leaving was maybe a week of coverage. The choice for many was to leave or stay and try to keep things reasonably sane. Now, that seems to be the conventional wisdom by all the former Trump people. Like, if I left, who was going to stay and stop the insanity? And maybe within the circles that you traveled in as at that time, and even still, I could see how that could maybe make sense to you, but to outsiders, it just always sounded kind of lame, like you guys should have invoked the 25th, like that's what it's there for. You should have, 10 of you should have said to Mike Pence, we need to meet right now and get this maniac out of the Oval Office because he's going to destroy America. I mean, there was sort of talk of that like 3 months, I think, after he became 2 or 3 months after he became president. But yet the insanity was allowed and enabled for so many years after that. And it's hard for even people like me who try to truly understand everything. And I've made mistakes in my life too, so I try not to be too judgmental of people. But part of me feels like the reason, and a lot of people I think agree, that feels like the reason we're where we are today, where this cancer is still eroding the nation, is because it was almost like at best a bunch of people were cowardly, or at worst they were complicit and enabling. What do you say to the people who feel that way?
Well, I think they're right to a degree. I think I was all three of those things. I think I was a coward, and I think I was complicit, and I do think I enabled. I mean, there's no getting around that, and especially looking back. But, and I see how that explanation is maybe, sounds lame, as you just said, but half the country I mean, and we could get into electoral or not, but half the country voted him into office. That he won, he legitimately won in 2016. And I think that for the cabinet and Pence, and I don't know this, I really don't. I think for them, they had to weigh what it would do to the country. Maybe in the beginning they thought, well, what would it do to the country if we do this? Not foreseeing where the country would be now. And then at the end, I imagine when there was talk about it, again, I would imagine that it was, what would this do to the country? We only have, a month left. Let's just get him out of here. Looking back now, I wish I would have gone, but also I know for a fact, had I gone to any chief of staff, including Mick Mulvaney, who I'm very close to and respect a lot, and including John Kelly, I know they would have been like, Stephanie, that's not going to happen. And if you can't serve as president, then leave.
It just seems crazy. But I can understand, like, if there was one or two things, like people get in a room like, but maybe, standing on a stage with Putin and saying, why would he do this? There's no reason. Like, okay, maybe. But like you said before, there was so much shit. And then, like, that moment of, should we inject the bleach? Put the bleach in? Like, if that wasn't the moment where people, during a pandemic, where people are in trucks, freezer truck, like, say, okay, we're out of here. This is it. This has to end right now. Like, to never get to that point just seems kind of crazy.
But I agree with you, but I'll push back. I think that, for people on the left, it's easy to say that seems kind of crazy, but we still had half of a country that would have erupted. And when you look at what happened at the Capitol, I don't know what would have happened. And I think, I can't read minds, but I think that people at the highest levels, the cabinet and the VP, had to think of those things. That's all I can think of personally, was that you still had half the country to consider. You guys would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, get this crazy man out of here. What would the other half of the country do? The people who felt he spoke for them and who really still believe in him.
It's a fair point. I don't think we should ever in this country not do the right thing because we fear violence or retribution on some level. But
I agree.
I do think that if you and Kelly and Mattis and this one, whoever was around at that time, or just all of you together, did a joint press conference and said, I know you voted for this man. I know you believed in him, but collectively here, there's 1,000 years of experience on national defense, national security, et cetera, State Department, blah, blah, blah. He lied. He cheated. He deceived you. It's not what you think, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I just, right or left, I think that would have been.
But we're doing that now.
Yeah, no. And
so many are doing it now.
Yeah.
And look, I mean.
A lot of people are doing it now, and that's important.
But No, I'm not saying that. I'm not like patting myself on the back saying, but we're doing it now. No, I'm saying so many of us are doing it now. And it's not fun to be doing this.
I bet.
Get our asses kicked every day and threats, whatever. But look at how he's doing. He's still the leader of the Republic. I mean, it's shrinking a lot.
Well, he's still the leader of the cult, but there's a lot of people who've left that side of the tracks. And his cult is much smaller. And
I do believe.
Because of people like you and Rick Smith and this one and Steve Schmidt and blah, 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 and Nicole Wallace and whoever else that used to be, George Conway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there was a lot of people who are speaking out and are speaking to the people in the middle and the moderate Republicans. And, and even there are some of the crazies that, you see them at rallies being interviewed, and when they get asked certain questions, like it's almost, like when a dog goes like this, when you, like some of them are starting to see that there's no logic into a lot of this. But I think you're right. There's a very big group that is still with him, but that group I think is shrinking because of what people like you are doing, and that's really important. You've since resigning on the eve of the insurrection. You have apologized up the wazoo, which is great. In your book, you said, I'm ashamed to say that I lost sight of what I was there to do which was to serve the country, and more than once. You have expressed considerable remorse, embarrassment, shame, regret. And like I said at the open, I appreciate that. But what do you say to the non-believers, the people who are like, yeah, she's just trying to rehabilitate her career, or she's promoting a book? What do you say to those people?
I mean, that's fair. I understand, but I'm not rehabilitating anything. I mean, there are people out there who will never believe me, and it would be much easier for me to start an animal sanctuary and never speak out and just disappear. That is what I ultimately want to do, and that would be much easier and a lot more peaceful. And I'm not promoting. I mean, my book came out a year ago, actually almost exactly a year ago. I'm really not, when I do any interviews, I never ask people to mention the title of my book, show a graphic of my book. When I do hits on CNN, that's not something I ever ask for. I don't get paid to go on CNN. So I'm not out here making, tons of money at all. And it would actually be easier to not say anything. I'm being sued right now for defamation. The Trump world, the things they have been trying to do to me and to my family have been very difficult. A lot of the stories they've been trying to pass around, and some of them they've gotten out there that, I have a drinking problem and this and that. So I say to those people, this isn't fun. It's not fun. I'm not out here. I'm not rehabilitating my image. I mean, the right doesn't like me and the left doesn't like me. If I had just gone away, maybe I could have saved a little of that. That's all I've got. But I understand. I mean, I understand that that's what some people are going to say, and all I can do is keep showing by my actions.
And so, as I mentioned before, your actions are very different than a lot of people who were on the inside who still are drinking that Kool-Aid. What brought you to that point of, no, at whatever the cost to me personally, I've got to speak out and consistently speak out against Trump and Trumpism? What was your turning point? Why are you here today talking to me? Why are you doing what you do?
I mean, the turning point was the day of the insurrection. That's the day I actually resigned. I was the first person to resign. That was when I broke. But I had been trying to resign for a few months prior to that. This is where it's like very self-serving, but I had gotten so close to the Trumps, I thought. And
which would repulse most people, but I just have to say that that's something I can't personally understand. But
no, I know, and that's what I said. This does not reflect well on me, and I think that's how I'm being honest, is that I say these things it's nonsensical. But anyway, at the end, some things happened with Mark Meadows, and some personal things happened with me that they did nothing. They just did nothing. And I asked Mrs. Trump specifically for help a few different times, and they just kept letting these things happen to me. So I had been trying to resign over that, and that's selfish. That's all about me. I was upset that they were allowing things to happen to me. And then the day of the insurrection, when she refused to tweet, I just was like, anything I had with her that I thought she was reasonable is gone now, and I need to get out of here. And that was what made me leave. And then the notion of him becoming president again is what's making me speak out. I mean, I want people to know that, yeah, a lot of people fucked up and enabled him, and this can't happen again, though. Like, I know people are still looking in the past and saying, but I am truly focused on the midterms and the presidential election, because he's trying to get people in very down ballot races that will be very significant potentially. And if we think the first Trump administration was crazy, a second Trump administration, when he doesn't have to worry about being reelected, where I can't imagine who's going to go and work for him or who will be in his cabinet this time, because it won't matter. I mean, he doesn't have to worry about being
my pillow
elected
guy
again.
will probably be Secretary of State,
I'm not seriously. No, seriously. I think
guy
it will
will be defense secretary or whatever. I mean, so how do you prevent something like this from happening again? Because to me, it's all about this outrageously phenomenal fealty to Trump that so many previously smart, principled, upstanding, respectable people with legacies were so willing to throw those legacies away because of this sycophantic fealty to a lying, self-consumed, dangerous traitor who will never, ever return even an ounce of that loyalty. Are those people not,
yes.
Would they not exist again? Like a different set of people who really will just get on the same track and follow the same path? So how do we stop that? How do we stop this from happening again?
Well, me personally, I believe, I've been trying to speak to people such as yourself one-on-one and reach, an audience of people to make
By the
them
way, I have to interrupt you. There's like two flies having sex on my computer right now. I don't know what the hell is happening.
Well, cue some music.
That's the weirdest thing I ever, like two flies. It's like, hey, you don't mind if we screw right now, do you? Wow, that is the craziest thing that ever happened. I've never seen fly porn, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah,
it's a first for everything.
I'm honored to be a part of this with you.
My co-producer and engineer extraordinaire, Maddie, just snapped him with some kind of tennis racket-looking thing that just murdered.
Yeah, the electric thing. Yeah, he should get a salt gun.
Did you kill both of them here in Kansas? Like, did they die like mid-sex or something? Oh my God, this is what.
What a way to go!
Look at what's happening here. Like, I feel like I'm.
It's a salt gun. I've got one.
What is Lauren Boebert? What is?
One. They're fantastic. They're so fun.
Oh my God, I wish the people at home can see what I was just holding. It's like I don't know. It's like a super soaker for flies or something.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, that was a crazy moment. So yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's just about people not doing what they did before. But I don't know if that's could stop that.
I think it's about talking to people about the implications of what is to come. I don't think anybody can deny that our country was in chaos for 4 years. At the very least, it was just fucking exhausting. And, we were made fun of on a national scale or international scale, excuse me. And I think reminding people of that, but also, again, looking forward and trying to explain to people, what these elections could do. If there's secretaries of state in states that can decertify elections and only put in the people they want, not who actually won, that's terrifying. That's important. Arizona comes to mind. I'm doing some things with Arizona to try very hard to stop the woman running for governor and the man running for secretary of state there. So I think things like that, it's not sexy and it's taking forever because you do have to kind of do it small people at a time. Because groupthink doesn't seem to want to open up their minds and try to accept some stuff.
But it starts with the I agree with you, and it also starts with people, the voters. I mean, I want to play something for you, something you said on The View a few months ago.
If I were to leave, I'm a single mom who needs a job. And let me tell you, no one was going to hire me, good, bad, or ugly, after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I had to think about that. But my point is now, I messed up. I am sorry. I will say that till the end of time. But I want to give people an off-ramp. And I'm going to do everything I can to educate people, not talk down to them, educate people about who he really is, that he is a con man, that it is a cult-like thing, and that it's okay to just get off.
Yeah, I totally get the single mom thing, so I do empathize with that. But more importantly, the second part of that quote, do you think you can get to those people? Like, I feel like some of them have been gotten to, but like that core, the people that would one day be completely, utterly heartbroken if they knew just how much that man lied to them and projected onto them everything he's done, but accuses the other side of doing. Like, they would be heartbroken, but can they ever be reached, do you think?
I mean, there's going to be a core of people that cannot be reached at all. But I believe, yes, I do believe there are people who can be peeled away. And I do believe, like, I'm very careful to not talk about Trump supporters as crazies, or I try not to do that. I really, because I was one of them. And I try to come at people with an understanding of, like, yes, hey, I believed in him too. I actually did believe in him for a period of time. And I'm telling you what I saw with my own eyes. I'm not lying right now. And I do believe reasonable people. I was reasonable, or I am reasonable, and I was there. So I have to believe that others can be too. And for me, again, it's hard because when there's a lot of people I've come to really respect who are like you, who say, like, I'm just so pissed at all of you who helped him, fuck off. And for most people, then you're going to dig your natural tendency is going to be to dig your heel in and then say, well, you fuck off, and then stick to your side, the right side. I'm trying to come at it as I get it. Yes. Because I want other Trump people to see that, like, a person like you and I can actually have a good conversation, and it's not that scary.
And for the record, I'm actually the opposite. I'm not in the fuck off camp. I'm in the, all right, it doesn't matter what you did yesterday. What matters is what you're doing today, because today we're completely, utterly aligned. Liz Cheney, I don't agree with anything that woman says or does politically, but you bet your ass, like, she and I today are 100% united on the most important thing that matters, and that's protecting and defending our rule of law and our democracy. So you mentioned something about how you speak to the Trump people. Recently, Joe Biden got in a little bit of trouble from certain parts of our society because he called the MAGAs semi-fascists. I was angry at him for saying the word semi because I don't think I see anything semi about it. I think they're full-on fascists. What about you? Was he wrong to say that? Do you think they're fascists?
I think that there's a section of Trump supporters who are very, very extreme, and I'll leave it at that. I was bummed out that he said it because, to quote Top Gun, like, you got to be doing it better and cleaner than the other guy. I really believe that right now. And again, I think that, right or wrong, human nature is, if you call me, or even not me, I don't feel like he called me a semi-fascist, but you still get this knee-jerk reaction of, I've got to circle up with my Republican pals now. Look at what Joe Biden is doing. And so for me, I was disappointed he said it. I understood where he was coming from, but I just think rhetoric right now, because of Donald Trump, frankly, is something we have to be so careful of. And again, we're hanging, and I don't think we should kiss ass and tiptoe around things. I don't. But, like, again, the elections are so important. And I think, again, just human nature is to suddenly try to stick with your own if you feel like you're being ostracized in any way.
Well, I mean, one of the best ways to get out the vote is to scare people about the realities of what exists. And sometimes, like you say, you can't sugarcoat things. You can't. I mean, look, if you just, this is fact. You have 24/7 lies and propaganda. You have spreading wild conspiracies, scapegoating, attacks on the media, attacks on the courts, attacks on law enforcement, threats of imprisoning political opponents, inciting violence, causing deadly insurrections, attempts to overturn elections, threats of more violence if they don't get their way. That sounds an awful lot like fascism. That is fascism. And so if we are facing fascism and the demise of our democracy, then it's kind of hard to skirt around that, to not upset certain people. No?
Yes, I agree, but I think that, I guess I'm coming at it from just a human nature. Like, I don't think everybody thinks that logically, and sadly. And
I've always been accused of being too logical. That's part of my weakness, is not understanding the nuance of people. Humans. All right, I know we're winding down towards the end here, but I want to shift to a lightning round, if you can, with a yes or no.
Okay.
Yes or no? Is Trump a sexual predator?
Yes.
Is Trump a sociopath?
Yes.
Is Trump a racist?
No.
Is Trump corrupt?
Yes.
Is Trump a traitor?
Yes.
Johnny, I think we've got a winner. Wow. I mean, I disagree on the racist thing, but we don't have to get into that.
And I want to be clear, those are my opinions.
Yep, I share your opinions.
Waiting to get sued again.
Yeah, well, no, you can't. Look, the opinion, you can't get sued over an opinion. Well, you can. I mean, people can sue anybody for anything.
Literally I'm being sued over an opinion piece. Yes.
Quick midterms prediction. Democrats going to keep the House?
I don't think Democrats will keep the House. I think they'll keep the Senate or get the Senate, but I don't think they'll keep the House. No, I think it'll flip.
Trump going to be indicted?
I don't think so. I hope so.
No, you just ruined my day.
I know. I mean,
is he running again?
So this one changes every single hour for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Honestly, every single hour it changes. I mean, as of right now, yes, I think to avoid prosecution, and I don't think his ego could handle somebody emerging as the new kind of face of the Republican Party. So as of now,
can his ego handle getting trounced? I mean, look, he didn't win in 2020. He's going to get trounced this time. Trounced. Can his ego handle that?
He'll just say it was stolen again. I mean, he will.
That's the world we live in.
Yes.
It was stolen.
He just
was stolen even
down.
more this time. Bigger fraud. More widespread fraud. Oh,
yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
You really did ruin my day.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. The last thing I want to ask you, we here in the back room, we really want to get into like a window into someone's soul. And there's no better way to do that than through music. So who are your top 5 musical artists of all time?
Oh, gosh. Queen, Matchbox 20, Justin Bieber, Elton John. That's all I can think of right now. Those are the top 4.
Come on, you got one more.
Oh, Lord.
Beatles?
No, I'm not. No,
oh
I don't think so. I know. I've got
Bieber, but no Beatles?
I love Justin Bieber, and I
more than the Beatles?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, my little boy grew up loving him.
You had me up until the music question. Now you lost me.
Oh, shoot. Come on, Queen's good. Queen's good.
Queen's great.
Yeah.
Bieber?
Elton John's great.
Bieber?
Don't hate on Bieber. He has a great message. He's got a great message of peace and unity.
I shouldn't criticize. I actually am going to see Harry Styles next week.
Oh, nice. Are you taking a child?
I know that sounds really creepy, but I have a young daughter, and
I was going to say you're taking a child.
So I am taking a teenager. So
that was my reasoning. My young son really liked young Justin Bieber. So you
went. So you like Bieber because of your son, kind of.
Well, I like his music. I really do like his music, and as an adult, I've enjoyed. He, like so many of us, made so many mistakes and has come out good, and he's got a great message now about peace and against racism and about kindness. And I think it's been amazing to watch him grow up, and I really do like his music. So
interesting thing about Bieber, since you're on Twitter a lot, do you know the Twitter handle God? There's a Twitter handle God. I think he's got like a million, I don't know, a ton of followers. He or she only follows one person, and that person is Justin Bieber.
Oh, I'll be following God as soon as we're done here.
Stephanie, you've been great. Again, I want to say you don't have to do this kind of stuff, but you are doing it. There's a lot of cowards who are slithering under their rocks. Some of whom are still wearing handcuffs now, like Steve Bannon, who will apparently go to their graves defending that monster. And you have made your decision, for whatever reasons you've made them, to get on the right side of history. And I just want to say again, I appreciate you doing that. A lot of people, I know you take a lot of shit, but a lot of people appreciate what you're doing and others are doing. And we hope you'll continue. And we hope we'll see a much better outcome in the next 12 months of things that are a little bit of a challenge right now. So thanks again.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much. It was fun.
Take care. So there you have it. Episode 15 in the can. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a message at 845-307-7446 or email us at backroomandy@gmail.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Andy Ostroy. Thank you to my co-producer, engineer, and editor, Maddie Rosenberg, our Jane of all trades, Jen Hamoud, Cricket Lengyel for our logo design, Andy Hollander for our kick-ass music, Patricia Wynn and the Epicurean for, literally, the back room studio. And a big thank you again to our guest, Stephanie Grisham. So keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Have a great week.